Hi, you guys. This clip you're going to see is one of the flashbacks I told you about earlier. Now, this was recorded during the time right after I finished the book. And what had happened was I had gotten a prospect with a traditional literary agent. And a lot of things went on. Maybe I'll tell you about that some other time. But I got real disappointed and decided it wasn't a good match. And what happened after that was I spent weeks in a depression, frustrated, until my sister called me up and told me that she could envision me acting like a little spoiled kid, kicking and screaming in the floor because things didn't go my way. And as a result of that whole process, it was a growing pain, but it really taught me about the fact that I wasn't in control of what God had called me to do. In other words, I was in control of myself to the extent where I had to make a decision that I was going to step to that calling and that assignment. But after that, I made the mistake of writing my own story into it. In other words, I had big visions of finding a literary agent and being published by a traditional publisher. And it was going to be a bestseller. I just wrote all of that into it when all God really told me to do was write the doggone book. I'll let you watch the rest of this clip and see what came out of that. Enjoy.
I'm Linda Williams. I don't know about you, but 2014 was one heck of a challenge for me with the loss of my precious baby sister, Judith. There was a lot of spiritual changing and changes of my mind that had to occur. And the 7 years that I spent writing the book was one level of healing. But the 2 years that have ensued since have been a matter of me realizing that I needed to quit telling God what I was going to do and get in line and in step with his program for me. The book was blood, sweat, and tears. I would have to say it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And the last couple of years when I was stuck on stupid is what I call it, was a matter of me realizing that if God said he's going to do a thing, it's really important for us not to write our own story into that. For instance, I knew I was going to write a book. I knew that it was going to be a healing journey. The whole time I'm seeing big visions of the book being picked up by a major publisher, my getting an agent, just the whole 9 yards. I wrote the whole script. I decided I was not going to be self-publishing the book. I knew that I'm not a detail-oriented person. I knew that I need to have detail-oriented people around me. And for that was one of the reasons I decided that I wasn't going to self-publish the book. Well, here I stand today, 2 years since finishing it, 2 years and 3 months since finishing the book, and I'm self-publishing. So the deal is this. He may give you the vision. He may honor you with the assignment. But when it comes down to how that thing is going to come to fruition and what happens with the project after that, that's all in his hands. I just wonder if anybody else is feeling the same thing where you feel like a lot of times nothing's going right. A door will open, you'll get excited about it. It'll be just such an in-your-face opportunity that you just know that's the door you're supposed to go through, and then it all falls apart. You have faith. You call things that be not as though they were with respect to any given thing in your life, and it falls apart. It falls apart, or it never comes to fruition. I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but I sure have. Well, I want to encourage everybody that it's really hard as a human being not to write your story into something that God told you would happen for you, or into something that you know he assigned you to do. Another thing that it's on my mind to share with you guys is this. If you have a vision and God has given you a specific vision or a specific purpose, a specific assignment, or a specific mission, and you know that you know in your very heart that God told you that thing, Do not get discouraged. I repeat, do not get discouraged when others don't get it. When other people try to tell you, no, you can never do that. One example that comes to mind is Joyce Meyer said she was making a bed when the Lord called her. And she had a bunch of friends she hung out with, and she shared the vision with them. And the thing was bugging them so much, they had to come to her as a group and tell her, look, we just don't see it. Your personality is not going to work with that vision you say God gave you. Well, today she's doing exactly what she had shared with her friends. And her friends were not right. At the time, Joyce had a lot of growing and a lot of healing to do, which she did as she accomplished the mission that God gave her. She didn't come into this thing feeling like she had to be all that in a bag of chips and before she could step into her purpose. She stepped into her purpose one step at a time. And I remember she was saying that at one point she was teaching a Bible study in short shorts and smoking a cigarette. She stepped in her purpose right where she was. She stepped into it. She didn't wait until she had it all together. She didn't wait until she had completely healed. She didn't wait until she understood the things that she understands now. So her friends at the time were not incorrect about her vision. They could not see it because they saw the Joyce that had been twisted up by life circumstances. They weren't even seeing the true Joyce. Joyce didn't even know the true Joyce. So if you know that God has called you to do something, I encourage you to do it. When I started writing the book, every other word in the very first 3 paragraphs were curse words. Every other one. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't give a flying rip. It was my book. I was going to write that book. I was going to be raw with it. I wanted everybody to see the rawness of what I was experiencing in my life. And I didn't care who didn't like it. And I even had the point of view that if religious people couldn't deal with it, oh well. I wanted that book to be real and raw. But as I grew and as I healed, layer by layer by layer, the curse words came out. My whole focus changed. The focus became making sure that the people that God had designed that book to help would be able to read it and be edified by it rather than to see Linda all over every page. So when I started writing the book, I wasn't there either. Anybody would tell you, when I had maybe the first part of the first chapter written, and I would read it to people and I'd read it with the curse words and didn't care. Please. But I'm a different person today. So I'm encouraging you that if God has called you to do something, you know that's your purpose. I'm asking you to just step into it one step at a time as he guides you. It doesn't matter who doesn't see you that way. God sees you the way he created you. And that's all she wrote. The pencil broke. That's all it is. And by the time that thing is complete and it's time for you to move to the next step in it, you'll be where you need to be at that point. But we've got to stop thinking that we've got to pull ourselves together and get ourselves good enough for God. Because guess what? If we could do it by ourselves, then him on the cross would be a waste of dadgum time. We cannot do this on our own. We can't do it by ourselves. And he knew that when he created you. He knew what you were going to go through. He knew I was going to be stuck on stupid. He knew it would take me a while to get it. He knew that I didn't see myself the way he created me. And he knew that before it was over with, I would begin to know who that Linda was. I'm encouraging you that that's what you need to do. Just if he told you to write a book, pen to paper, write what you can when you can. If he told you to go preach, well, okay, I'm not suggesting that you get your hiney in the pulpit and be cursing like a sailor. But you take step by step by step as he guides you to do it. You still smoking, so don't smoke in the pulpit and get the smoke out your clothes. When you're ministering to people who it might distract, just do what he told you to do. Because guess what? We've been hearing for multiple decades that we're in the end time. We've been hearing for multiple decades we're in the end time. We're living in the end time. Well, folks, I'm telling you now, I give you 30 minutes of CNN to prove to you that this is indeed the end times. And God is accelerating his purpose in this earth. He's accelerating the healing. And he really needs us to get on board with things. The greatest lesson I learned from writing Whose Apple Is It Anyway is this. It's not about me, but it's all about me. It's not about me to the extent that I need to be so worried about, how Linda look, how Linda is, worried about who I'm mad at, who I'm angry with. It's not about me in that regard, but it's all about me with respect to my decision, my quality decision to get on board with the master plan. It's all about me where that decision is concerned. And I'm telling you guys now, when you come to a crossroads where the decision you make in that moment, in that here and now, is going to determine whether or not you will remain or place yourself on your path of purpose, or whether or not you're going to go a wrong direction. We don't often know that the decisions we're making in that moment indeed are our crossroads. The children of Israel stood smack dab in face of the promise that had been made to multiple generations of their ancestors, and they didn't even see it. I mean, just imagine that. There's God stood facing a defiant nation of his people. His back is to the promised land, and they're facing it, and he's having to disqualify. Nope. You all just denied destiny. Wander around in the wilderness another 40 years. You ain't ready. And we hear that story, and we've heard that story, and we've read that story. But I wonder how many of us get that. It broke God's heart to have to do that. He didn't get any pleasure in the promise that he had made to Abraham being denied by the very people that were there. The very generation that would reap that promise couldn't see through their bondage. They left Egypt, but they took the fear-soaked, rebellion-soaked remnants of that bondage into the Exodus with themselves, and it blinded them to the promise. Look, I'm going to end this with this because I don't want to talk too long, but I want you to know two things about destiny. Number one, it's never going to look the way you think it does. I didn't have writing a book on my bucket list. I never aspired to be a writer, but here I am writing. I didn't aspire to return to Michigan. I left home when I was 18 and said I would never return to Michigan. Here I sit, been here for the last 20 plus years. First of all, destiny is never going to look the way you think it will. And secondly, because destiny comes out of the very heart of God, God's creative purpose for you. It's your birthright. Your destiny is what God put you here for. It's all about your fulfilling your vision and your mission and your purpose and reaping that destiny that God had in his heart when he thought you up. And because your destiny comes out of the very heart of God, and we know that he is relentless. He doesn't relent on his promises. He's not getting knocked around by wind or circumstance and situation. He is who he is. He says what he says, and you can believe he's not going to flip the script on that. That being the case, destiny cannot deny you, but you can deny destiny.
Hey, if you like what you see here today, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you know when we upload, and like and share the video. Thanks.